You're watching Tech Talk in affiliation with Tech for Techs. We're a community that supports independent trade with the help of vendors and distributors. We're live every Thursday at 8 p.m. London time, and we'll be streaming to Facebook and YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You can listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google, TuneIn, and many more. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, and your host, Philip Griffiths.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Tech for Tech's Tech Talk, where we help your business grow. This is a spotlight episode, and it's about save money, make money with VAT margin. Please comment in the comments section and let us know where you're viewing from and what company you work for, and also let us know if you can actually hear us, so we actually know that we're, live. If you have any thoughts or questions on this topic, please feel free to comment in the comments section. If you are watching from the Facebook group, please click the link in the chat, which I am putting in just 1 second. This link will allow you to be able to show your name when you're using the chat. So instead of being called Facebook user, it will actually show your name. So again, click that link I've put in chat, and that's for members of the Facebook group. If you have any questions regarding VAT margin, please feel free to do so in the chat. So let's have a look who we've got on. So Facebook user says they can hear us. Hi Kunal, hi Cormy from Ireland, and hi Peter, and hi Paul as well. So today we are joined by Sam McNally, or Nally, if I pronounce it correctly, from ALM Wholesale. So Sam, would you like to tell everyone basically a bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and actually tell everyone how to actually pronounce your name properly?
Second time right, it's McNally. So I'm sure Mr. Cormerson will know that more than anyone, being it's an Irish last name. My dad was from Cork, so I don't look Irish at all, but nonetheless. Hi to everyone, and I hope that you're going to enjoy the show. So we'll go from here. So ALM Wholesale Limited, so just a bit about us. Essentially, we started off as just a company that was looking to get into doing repairs and IT support. Very quickly, we changed from going down the IT support and repair route and went more along the lines of trade. And essentially now we're just trying to improve every day and go from small company to large company, but essentially always with the sort of understanding and of the customers that we're working with, and not that we're small company mentality, but also making sure that we're doing everything that we can do and doing as much as sort of distribution levels doing, but also keeping the prices more than reasonable, which is very difficult right now. I can say demand is pretty crazy. But yeah, essentially we do wholesale refurbishment of IT products, and we also do recycling alongside the other company we have, which is Recycle Your Tech. But yes, that's us in a nutshell.
Right, okay, that's pretty good. Let's just quickly go to the chat and see what everyone's saying. So again, hi Timothy, TKM, PM and IT North Yorkshire, and you've got Wayne as well from H&W Computers. We've got a few others then. Oh God, apparently Cormy thinks you might be related.
I see.
You never know, to be honest with you. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, in all honesty, but
I think it's great. I have some fantastic conversations with Mr. Corbison.
Yes, I better be nice to him actually today, because apparently he's interviewing us in a couple of weeks' time. So apparently he says it's going to be like the Harry and Meghan interview all over again. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
No doubt he'll have some interesting questions for us. So, right, okay. So let's go on to the topic. Well, actually, before we go on to there, if you are commenting from the Facebook group again, please click the link I've put in chat. I'll put it in again just so you can see it. That way your name will be shown and you won't be just called Facebook user. So hi to everyone who I haven't said hi to. I can just see Ping Zones just popped up as well, and Adrian from Quick Smart IT in Cardiff as well. So it looks like we've got quite a few people all over the place. Right, so let's go on to the main topic then. So the main topic today is save money, make money with VAT margin. So let's start off, Sam. What exactly is VAT margin?
So essentially the VAT margin scheme is another way of being able to purchase and sell products. You have standard VAT, which is essentially if you're VAT registered, you're paying plus VAT and you're selling plus VAT, which will contra off against each other. There'll be a slight difference, and that's what is your VAT return. Because you'd like to think that you're always selling for more than you bought for. If you sold for the same, then the VAT would be exactly the same amount and it would literally be neutral. But that's how standard VAT works. You pay plus 20%, you sell ideally for more, and you pay plus 20% again. And the difference once you claim back is the small amount that you pay on your VAT return. With the VAT margin scheme, a lot of people shy away from it. They get a bit, don't know what it is. You sort of want to run away. But yeah, I mean, like most things, we charge in like a ball and, have a go at it, see what happens and then go from there. But with the VAT margin scheme, it's something that we've been using at ALM for, the 4 years as of a couple of days ago that we've been in existence. And with a previous company that I worked for before, we looked to use that a lot more. It came in primarily with cars at first, and then it moved from cars onto mobile phones. They found that a lot of people with mobile phones started to use it in a negative way. So then they did reverse that, and then from there now that's mainly what you see on mobile phones. But essentially, the VAT margin scheme, which is we're discussing. Mainly laptops is what we use it for, but it depends on the way in which you've bought the items in the way that you can use it. We'll get onto that. But essentially the VAT margin scheme is the opportunity for someone to charge 16.67% of VAT, which in the UK, our VAT rate is 20%, so it's already less. But you're also charging the 16.67% only on the profit. So where 20% would be over the total product's value. So for example, if it was £300, you'd be charging your customer £360. And say, for example, you were making £50. So you bought it $250, you sold it at 300, you sold, you charge the customer plus, 20%, so 360. Now, if the customer isn't VAT registered, then they're not going to be able to claim that back, so they've just lost 60 quid, and you've not gained anything from that 60 quid either, to be fair. The government's got that money, and that's how it is. But in regards to the VAT margin scheme, if your end user is not VAT registered, and they can't claim back the VAT, then the VAT margin really comes into its own. Because, for example, if you bought it for £250 and you sold it for £300, you're only charging, remember, the 16.67%, not the 20, on the £50, which is £8.33p. So for example, if you were selling something for £300, you bought it for £250, that's £50 of profit, so 50. You are then only charging £8.33. So instead of charging £360, you're charging £308.33, but you're still making exactly the same profit. The alternative that you have there is that if your customer is expecting 360, or you are very confident you can sell for 360, then even though you bought it for 250, you can still charge the VAT margin, but you could charge it on, say, for example, £100 of profit. So you're making more money. So you then go from 250 to 350. If you're confident you can sell it at 360, on £100, 16.67% would obviously be £16.67p. So you would be at 366.67, and you've made £100 of profit rather than £50. So it depends how you want to work it. It can either be more money for you, more profit, or you can sell it for the same profit margin, but you're selling it considerably less. Which right now, if you're buying higher, and you can buy it under VAT margin, but you're selling it at a lower VAT margin, a lower VAT rate, you're finding it very, very useful. Not to go into too much because obviously there's set questions, but Macaulay Stevens, so he was talking to me the other day. He said, you've got some laptops, Dell E7240s, and he was like, I'm buying them at 166 under VAT margin. He was like, I want to sell them at 250, and I was like, oh, okay, right. And he said, if I put £50 on top, so I'm at 260, and then I put the VAT on top, I'm basically at 250 quid. And he said, and that's high. Before I was buying them at like 130 off of you, putting 50 quid on top, 180, and then only charging like 216, 220 pounds. I said to him, if you buy under that margin at 166, you put your £50 on top, you're at 206. You put your £8 on top, you're at exactly the same price as you were before when you were buying at £130, because you're at 215, and at the 130 you were at 215 at no standard VAT. And because they became the same level, suddenly he was like, oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be buying. So it seems like I'm rabbling loads now, but we can break it down throughout the show. But essentially, you can make more money if you are confident you can sell at that price that you were selling at previously, standard VAT. Or if you want to sell things cheaper but make the same margin, then you can, because you're charging the VAT on a smaller figure at a lower rate or percentage, you're being able to make the same profit margin, but you're selling the item considerably less, which is really good. But it really comes into its own when the end user is not VAT registered. Okay, if the end user is VAT registered, then they're going to claim that whole 20% back, and you would ideally be buying from us standard VAT. But anything, for example, we were selling under VAT margin rules, we could sell under standard VAT. But there is other things that we'll discuss as well. It's not necessarily just buying from us. There is other options like Julian Wilkinson is just put on. I've bought some things from people who have said that they can't supply a VAT invoice as they are on the margin scheme. I don't quite understand what they mean by on the margin scheme. If you've got an item and it's been purchased under VAT margin, I can change that on our stock list to standard VAT and sell to you plus VAT. It doesn't matter. So I'm not too sure what they mean by that. But one thing that we are going to discuss, on the group, on the chat today, you said I bought some things. Bear in mind, everyone, I don't quite know in Ireland and other places like that. I know that because we've come out of Brexit, we can't sell to people outside of the UK under VAT margin rules anymore. But that doesn't mean that someone in Ireland can't use the VAT margin scheme with a customer that comes into their shop. And just like, myself, if we had a shop, which we don't, but let's say we had a shop and somebody, an individual comes in and they want to, sell that laptop to us. They can't be VAT registered, by the way. They have to be an individual. If they came in and said, I want to sell this to you, you could buy that, under VAT margin rules, and you wouldn't pay any VAT to them, even if you bought it under standard VAT rules. When you go to sell it, you can do the VAT margin, calculation, and it will save you money, or like the chat is about, it can make you money.
Okay, so I think that pretty much answers that one. I know what I'd rather do, make more money, but then again, you could look at it both ways. As if you can sell it for a cheaper price, you could sell more and make more money that way as well, can't you? So,
yeah.
Let's have a look what next question we got. So, what sort of goods can you sell under the scheme?
So, in regards to VAT margin, you can sell anything that you've purchased under that scheme. So it's all dependent on how you've purchased it. So, as far as I understand it and what we've used it for, phones, tablets, PCs, laptops, all of these items are things that when you're purchasing them and they are a used item, so the VAT has already been charged on it, like a used car, why would the customer have to incur 20% again? So that's where you suddenly get into a point where it's like, well, you don't need to be paying 20% VAT on that again, especially if that individual can't claim that back anyway. It's of no benefit to them. So individual comes into your shop and wants to trade in, mainly just IT and electronics, consumer electronics. So essentially, I don't know if you could use it on like kettles and stuff, but I mean, I don't think anyone in the group really deals with like household appliances. I think it's more so TVs and phones and laptops and tablets and computers. These are all the things that we've used it for. I mean, there's some slightly different rules with phones whereby you can do reverse VAT, where essentially once you get to, if you purchase over £5,000 worth of phones, you just don't pay any VAT at all. You just don't pay none, even if you're VAT registered. But again, that's another can of worms that we won't open up. But yeah, no worries, Mr. Stevenson. So essentially, in regards to what items you can purchase for it, as far as I understand it, and I can always do a bit more digging, but what we've used it for has been, your standard products that, as far as I understand it, everyone in the group is working with, which is not parts, but whole items, laptops, PCs, tablets, phones, TVs, that sort of stuff.
Okay, I think that pretty much answers that one. I've just had a quick look on the government website, and it basically just says you can choose to use VAT margin scheme if you sell second-hand goods, works of art, antiques, or collector's items. Obviously, we're not financial advisors, so just to clear that up for anyone, so we're not legally, we don't work for HMRC or anything like that. So if you're ever unsure about anything, double check with your tax office or whoever you deal with, because we don't want to obviously put ourselves in someone's firing line, basically. So right, next up is how the scheme actually works.
Right. So in regards to the VAT margin scheme, what we're looking at, or what HMRC are looking for, is that you can track where it's come from and where it's gone to. Okay, because where you're charging a lower VAT amount, it's going to flag on their system. Now, when we were flagged for it, we were flagged not only for the fact. So, say for example, we had £10,000 worth of sales go through. And that's showing on our books, and they're expecting £2,000 of VAT to be coming back to them from that 20%, right? So when they're not seeing that, they're going, why? So the first thing they saw was that we were selling to Europe, we were selling to Dubai, America, and these are all places where we don't charge any VAT. So that was the first thing that flagged for them. But we don't really need to get into that too much, because everyone in the groups, I don't think they're doing that. But if you are, I'm happy to help you with that if need be. In regards to the VAT margin, they were seeing an amount of VAT, and they were seeing an amount on the invoice, but the VAT was obviously considerably less than 20%, because we're doing it at 16% and we're only doing it on the profit rather than over the whole entire figure. So that instantly flagged for them. Now, honestly, we're doing it so much because we're selling considerable amounts of laptops and PCs and whatever, that they wanted to come by and see us. So essentially what they were looking for and what we provided them. And, anyone that's bought from us previously, I mean, Phil being, one of them, we've got, I hope that I was allowed to say that, Phil, sorry.
No, you're not. Too late now, though, but yeah, you are.
But essentially,
yes, we have bought.
Yeah, so where you've got we provide a packing list, very detailed. But on there, the key bits on there is that you've got all of the information for the stock, but you can use the packing list that we've got, or we can even send you one as a template. And on there, and this is why I keep looking to the side, is that we have an Excel sheet, which is on there. You'll have the serial number of the item, and then you will have the price in which you bought it for, which is always a VAT included price, because the person that sells to you never tells you the price ex VAT. Now we do, which means that you could essentially work out the profit that we're making on that item. But, we're not fussed about whether how much we're making. At the end of the day, as long as we're giving you a reasonable price and the product is good and the after service is good, then it's fine. But we show the ex-VAT price because it allows you to be able to buy the product and understand the VAT rules or VAT margin. But essentially, with the VAT margin, you need to be showing the serial number, which is an identifier for the item. You need to be showing where you've bought it from. So say, for example, you bought it from us, you would want to have an invoice with us on it, and you would need to have the serial numbers of the machines that you've bought, okay? Then when you go to sell that item, we would give you a packing list, which on there it would show, and this is what you could also use, by the way, for anyone trading in through your shop or store or online trading platform, I don't know, whatever you wanted to use. You would have essentially the price in which you bought it for, you would have the sale price, which is what you're looking to achieve, and then you would have a formula which works out the 16.67%, which you would clearly show on your list, on the packing list, so that they can easily see the figure at which you've done it with, which is 16.67%. And then you would have the final figure, which is the VAT included amount. So that, remember, there is a bit of VAT on there, but it's a smaller amount of VAT. It's not 20%, yeah? So VAT is still there. When you go to sell the item, you can show where you've bought it from. Say, for example, us, ALM Wholesale. You can show the serial numbers on that invoice of what you've bought. You then show the serial numbers on your packing list. You show, again, what you bought it for, which matches with your invoice. So then you can show where you bought it from, and then you've got the packing list to show that. Then the next steps on from that is the VAT margin amount calculated because of you've put in your sale price, the VAT included amount, which is the amount that you sold it for. The final bit that you would require on your packing list would be who you sold it to. So there is a little bit more work involved, unless somebody else has got some software that's working it out better than me. And if so, please, let me know. But essentially, you would run alongside your standard invoicing software. When we use Xero, and we just do everything as like a zero rated invoice, which you could do on QuickBooks or any of that. It's not difficult to do. You set it up as just zero rated. But you put on your invoice sold under global accounting scheme, which is the VAT margin scheme. That's all you need to do. And in regards to the packing list that you would have for that customer, you would just have the invoice number for the packing list, okay? And on your packing list that we provided you a packing list of 50 laptops and you sold to 50 different people, you would just have an Excel, on the Excel sheet, you just have one line that says, this item that we sold for this price went to this customer. And then you've tracked where you've got it from, say, for example, us. You've got the calculations on your packing list that we already provide you with a formula so that you can easily edit it and change it, and you know what to sell for and what the VAT margin is. And then at the same time, you've got who you sold it to. Now, when you've got the packing list that we provide, then it makes it so much easier for you. And where a lot of people were kind of like, oh my God, I don't really know what I'm doing here. And I mean, I've talked to a few people in the group and said, like, are you aware of this scheme? And they were like, no. And the ones that were like, yes, they were like, oh, I'm going to find it really difficult to record that and whatever else. And, there's going to be some complications into, integrating something new, into an existing system. No one, likes change, but when you're talking about, we're in an environment now whereby, cost of parts has gone through the roof because China's surcharging everything to try and claw back their money, i.e. COVID and everything else that's happened. But also you've got the cost of laptops, because there's no real laptops, for example, as a perfect example, laptops, because that's what everyone's mainly talking about. And also the main thing that, we sort of sell and what's really moving most in the market right now. The laptops, what we're seeing is there's a big shortage on used laptops because no one's recycling a lot, because we do recycling as well. So we're not seeing as many laptops in the market, but at the same time, we're not seeing a lot of new, and the new laptops are stupidly high. I mean, HP even said we can't deal with the demand. We can only deal with 20% of what we would normally deal with. I don't know if that's complications with getting items, out through, Brexit and, things with China where they're surcharging, etc. But where we're finding the demand for these laptops is few, there's a lot more on it. We're seeing everything, the price are going high. And because you're getting i5, for example, 4th generation laptops that, we're selling that for like 165, you're seeing people that are selling that for 250, and that's our competitors. So the VAT margin scheme is something that if you can purchase from us under that margin scheme, or you can purchase that through your store from someone, and you can make the same profit as you were before, but you're selling the item at the same price because the VAT is reduced, or even potentially cheaper, I don't know. That's going to be beneficial for you, not only now, but also when we come out, fingers crossed, after COVID, because even when the demand isn't as high, it's going to be even better then, because, parts costs are going to come down, cost of, items is going to come down, and even the demand might slow a bit, your price is going to come down as well, and that's going to make things very beneficial. So I just can't understand, if you're not using this, you need to be asking yourself why, because it's a fantastic scheme. It really, really is.
Sounds pretty good. Next question, I think you pretty much answered anyway, but is what records must you keep?
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially the packing list that, I'm happy to give someone a template. But yeah, in regards to the packing list that we provide, when HMRC came to see us, and again, I'm no financial advisor, but I can only speak through when we had the visit. And I mean, no word of lie, a friend of mine who's actually in another group that we're on, but that's mainly to do with mobile phones. And I was talking to him, and he had an audit, and his audit lasted months and months and months. And they were pulling him apart. And I'm not saying that, I'm, anything amazing, but, I looked into this properly, made sure that we had a detailed report, and essentially, called them up to find out, like, what are you looking to track here? And, as I, said just a little moment ago, if you've got the invoice for the sale and the invoice for the purchase, and then the packing list in between, and that tracks where you bought it from with the serial number and the fact that you're doing it under VAT margin, and then the packing list showing again the buy price, the sale price ex VAT, the VAT margin as a calculation, and then what you're going to sell it for with that small amount of VAT on. And then you have the invoice out the other end, which states not only on the packing list who it went to, but also the invoice of who it went to. You are then tracking it from start to finish. And then the next person that buys it from you, if they, for example, wanted to sell it on again, I mean, I highly doubt that, because pretty much everyone in the group, and especially the people we sell to, they're selling to the end user. But if you were going to sell to another person who was then going to sell to an end user, you could just, they could do that again, and just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. It just keeps going down over and over and over until it finally falls with someone that has to incur that little amount of VAT.
Okay, that sounds pretty good, that. I'm going to say, even if you're looking at just say, making an extra £50 profit from this a day sort of thing, over a year, that's what, £18,250, I think it is, off the top of my head. So you can make yourself a lot of profit by just simple things. Obviously, you've got to sell one item a day, but I'm pretty sure most shops out there will be able to get that, or at least half of that amount of things, if especially with the demand for second-hand goods at the moment in the likes of computers and laptops and so forth. Let's just go on to the next one, and then we'll have a look at a few things what are coming in through chat and some messages have been sent. So can I do this with computers I buy from customers? I know you've already answered that basically, but if you would just want to go into that again.
Sorry, say again. Sorry, apologies, I missed that.
Basically, yeah, the question was, can I do this with computers I buy from customers?
100%. 100%. Yes.
Yeah.
So, if the customer is looking to trade in an item, then you would just straight up raise an invoice. You wouldn't charge them any VAT. Even if you're VAT registered, you wouldn't charge them any VAT at all. And you would just put on the invoice that you purchased it under Global Accounting Scheme, which is VAT Margin Rules. And that's your invoice there. And then essentially, like I say, all you've got to do is you've got a packing list, which details what the product is, etc. And then you have, like I say, the formula that we can provide or help you with. That's not a problem. And then when you're going to sell it, you've just got another invoice, which is what you would do even if you were doing it under standard VAT. You would purchase something, and if it was used, I believe if you're VAT registered and you were purchasing something used, you would have to charge VAT because you're VAT registered. So, that the customer loses that 20%, which is not good for them either. But essentially what we're talking about is more the sale here. So, even if you bought it without any VAT, standard VAT, which I'm pretty sure you'd have to charge it anyway because you're VAT registered. When you go to sell the item, you are selling, remember, plus 20%. Now, if the customer is VAT registered, it's fine because they claim the 20% back. So happy days. But if they're not VAT registered, this is when the margin scheme comes into its own, because at that point you are charging the 16% only on the profit, and depending on how much profit you're making, realistically, imagine if you were selling a laptop that you got through a trade-in, and it was a gaming laptop, let's say, and you were doing, it was £1,000. You should be charging £200 of VAT on that. That's a lot of money. And if, for example, you were making £100 profit on that, you're only charging them £16.67. It's ridiculously low. Now, with something where you're buying it for £100 and you're making 20 quid, okay, yeah, it's not as dramatic then, but still, 16.67% on £25 is £4 of VAT. So, depending on your margin will depend on the VAT rate. But again, it depends on what you're selling for. Now, I'm pretty sure that nobody on the group is realistically selling, most laptops they're selling for probably 150 plus. Yeah. Unless it's like a cheap dual core laptop or something like that, and then they might, do, like a bargain bucket or something. I don't know. We're not quite KFC, but like a bargain price. Yeah. But for example, even if you were doing something, you bought it for £50 from a customer, there was nothing wrong with it. You did a quick reinstall on it, and it was all bells and whistles. It was fine. Maybe whacked an SSD in there or something just to, speed it up. And with that, once that's good and it's ready to go, say for example, you were making the 50 quid on that, you sell to the customer, you'd normally sell them £100 and it'd be, 20 quid. Now, if you're making £50, you're only charging them £8.33. Now, it may only be £12, but £12, even that small amount, if you're, depending on how many items you're selling, over a year, that can be a considerable amount just at £12, £5. A lot of the guys and girls on this group, you're selling items, HDMI cables and other things like that, and you're not making a lot of profit on those, so I'm sure you understand every bit counts, And over a year's period, it can really, really tick up, especially when we're starting to talk, the sales figure is significantly less, but your margin's still the same. You can have some customers that are walking away incredibly happy because what they're finding is, wait a minute, I'm getting this fantastic laptop or PC or whatever it is, but suddenly, wait a minute, I'm getting that significantly cheaper. And remember, at the same time, you're the seller and you're sitting there going, I still got the same margin and my customer's super happy. they go raving around, and you know how it goes, but this is just something that's worthwhile considering. And if anybody wants to to catch up with me after, I'm more than happy to help then as well. So yeah, sure, we can move on to the next question.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's pretty good information there. So next question I got as a private message before the show, and the question is can you actually use this scheme if you're not VAT registered?
So essentially, if you're not VAT registered, you don't need to, because you're going to buy with no VAT and you're going to sell with no VAT. So it's good for you. As soon as you go over the VAT threshold, then it's going to be, that's going to be something when it's going to come into play. The only other benefit to you not being VAT registered is if you're buying from someone that is VAT registered and they're selling under the VAT margin scheme, you've got to remember that you are paying less VAT, which is a good thing. Yeah. So your VAT included price is less. So for example, if they're selling to you at 160, and normally you would have put that at 160 plus VAT, then if it's 160 under VAT margin including VAT, you're losing that, the £32 there, which is great because it's more money for you to make on, because it's a smaller figure. So if you're not VAT registered, it's good if you're buying under VAT margin rules because there's less VAT being charged to you. But essentially, if it was like through a shop, it doesn't really benefit you at all because you've not hit the VAT threshold. So you're not charging the customer any VAT because you're not VAT registered. And you're also not having to charge them any VAT because you're not VAT registered. So to all the people out there that are not VAT registered, until you hit the VAT threshold, it's not going to benefit you through individuals, when you're buying them through your whatever platform it is that you're selling online or purchasing, online or through your shop, etc. But if you're purchasing from a supplier that is offering you that margin, if you're looking at the pricing, if you've got a competitor that's selling at 160 plus VAT, and for example, we're not, but let's just say like as an arbitrary figure, we're selling at 160 with VAT margin. Not only are you getting it, cheaper, but at the same time, if you were VAT registered, you could use the VAT margin scheme and you benefit there. But someone who's not VAT registered, you're only going to benefit on the purchase from a supplier selling under that. You wouldn't benefit from it when you're purchasing from an individual, and you wouldn't benefit from it when you're selling to an individual, because you're not having to charge any VAT or to the customer, or to the customer when you're buying, or the customer when you're selling. So as someone who's not VAT registered, it wouldn't benefit you, only benefit you if you were buying from a supplier under the VAT margin rules.
Right, I think that pretty much answers that one. So in basics then, if you're buying from, let's say, yourselves, it's a good idea to go through the scheme. And if they're not and they're buying from a customer, well, it's a bit pointless doing it because then you're charging VAT when you don't need to. Right, let's go on to chat in the actual group itself. So this is from Facebook user. He says, Sam, the last thing anyone would want is a VAT inspection. We have nothing to hide. We buy at 20% VAT and sell at 20% VAT. I'm not sure if that's actually a question or a statement, to be honest with you, but basics is obviously if you keep your records right, then there's less chance the VAT man will be wanting to chase you down, whichever way you look at it.
I mean, to give you an idea, Sam, the last thing anyone would want is a VAT inspection. Obviously, nobody wants to have their day-to-day interrupted, But again, if you've got nothing to hide, then it doesn't matter, does it? And, I welcomed it when they wanted to come, because I thought once I get it done, then that's it. It's not now that I've done it, I'm going to, do everything dodgy as possible, afterwards. That's not the case. There's always that opportunity that, the opportunity that they might arise, they might come, and swing by and want to check you again. But that, even if you're doing this, and it's flagging on their system, they're going to come, and as long as you've kept your records, correctly, which is exactly, what we've done, we were doing, VAT exempt because we were selling outside of the UK. We were doing VAT margin scheme. We were doing standard VAT, purchasing thousands of parts, thousands of different, laptops and PCs and all that sort of stuff. And when you're selling to people outside of, when we were in the EU, you were having to get all of their VAT documents. You were having to keep export delivery notes and all this sort of stuff. It sounds like it's a lot of work, but once you get the process in place, you just follow it, and it's not really that difficult. It really isn't. So yes, nobody wants a VAT inspection, but again, if you've got nothing to hide, like we didn't, they came and within one day they were in and out. And the lady that came to see us said that she was, really impressed with the system and the way that we tracked it. Hence the reason we've got the, the ISO 9001, which is quality management system. So, we managed to do that very quickly and very easily because, we use this system. So again, I'm only offering this as advice. Yes, we do sell under the VAT margin, and yes, we do have laptops. But the point of this was, yes, it's an intro about us, but at the same time, when Macaulay came and asked about the products and said, why are you not, I can't get it at the same price. When I explained it to him, he was like, wow, I wasn't aware of that. And I just thought to myself, in this day and age, how are people not aware of that? Now, that wasn't me being rude or in any way, shape or form to Macaulay, but if my company can save you guys money, and at the same time, I can, or maybe not, if you don't want to purchase, that's entirely up to you, and it is well within your rights. But the other thing as well is that you can be utilising this scheme, for people that are trading in for your store, which is not really going to happen too much now. But 12th of April, or when you open up the retail side again, there could be potentially a lot of people that are doing this, and where PCs are starting to sort of come away, and we're not seeing them as much in call centers. We do a lot of laptops into call centers now because they're using the laptop in the call center with a monitor in a cubicle, and they're 3 days a week, and then 2 days a week, and then 3 days a week they're at home. They pick up the laptop, take it home, put it up to the monitor. Happy days, right? So this is something that we're going to see more and more and more of in regards to tech, because IT and the purchasing of IT, especially used IT, has gone through the roof because brand new, they can't deal with it. And even if brand new still, it's still doing well, it doesn't matter, because if the brand new items are sold to an individual and the company doesn't want the individual, the company says to the individual, you can keep the item. If they come into your store, they can trade that item in, and you can trade it in under VAT margin rules. Simple as that, and you can trade it in under VAT margin rules and pay no VAT on it, and then still, you can still sell it plus VAT. It just gives you an option to not pay the VAT or charge the VAT to the customer initially, which is good for them. And at the same time, which means they make more money, or and at the same time, you're being able to sell under the VAT margin or sell under standard VAT. Gives you two options. You've got everything to gain there, and nowhere near as much to lose, because you've got two options and not one. Like they say, two heads are better than one, right?
Very true. Let's go on to the next one. So this is from Timothy. Let's have a look. It's good to know my detailed stock records, etc., have a good use. I got told by some my every details of stock items I get is overkill. If you get that one. Yeah.
So in regards to, to a certain extent, some people say that our, packing list or stock list to a certain extent is overkill. But, some of the people that, buy for us, for example, they're buying from Europe or Dubai, and, can't just rock up on your door and, oh, yeah, I want to come and have a look. We're not a shop. So even if you came into our warehouse, it's, hundreds and hundreds of, brown boxes with labels on saying, RYT 259-86. You couldn't tell what that was. So, the stock list is definitely worthwhile having that. And your records being too detailed, I don't ever think that that's a bad thing, and I don't think that's overkill. You can never be too detailed. And, if you've got that extra detail there, you just never know. That's always potentially going to come in useful. If you haven't got that detail, that's when things can go wrong. And especially with the VAT margin, like I say, the template that we've got is more than detailed enough. We've been inspected. It was all good. Flew through one day, happy days. A friend of mine who's got a very successful company, does very well, does a lot of mobile phones, insurance, and etc. That kind of work. Didn't have all of his ducks in a row. Didn't have the detail there, and yes, spent months and months and days and days and days, giving them this information that, I'll be honest with you, HMRC, I think, understands the VAT margin scheme. Yes, but he was looking for help from his accountant. And look, we've been working with our company that we work with, One Accounts they're called. And big shout out to them. I don't care where you are in the UK. One Accounts are by far the most amazing accountant I've ever worked with. They are amazing. So, they taught me everything that I know, and I can do all my own accounts and, have really good detailed conversations with them. But essentially for them, it was, not a stumbling block, but something that they didn't fully understand, and they're an accountant. That's who you look to, right? Look, once you understand how to do it, and, that's something that, can easily be explained. If you're happy to put the time into, getting the packing list right, which is essentially just an Excel database, the paperwork is minimal because it's just the same. You would raise an invoice if you purchase something from someone because you'd need a way of tracking it. That you purchased it, right? And, if you sold it, you would provide an invoice again. So you're still doing the same things as standard VAT. You've just on your database where you've got what stock you've got in, you've just got an extra column for who you sold it to, which relates to the invoice and the invoice number. So you can, relate it easy. Okay. That customer, that PC that I bought under VAT margin scheme, on my Excel database, it states, IMV 2210, and that's the invoice number. It's easy. It's for you as well. It's easy to track, right? And then it also states on your packing list who you bought it from, which, if you're always buying from the same supplier, then great. But if it's an individual, then you might want to put down not necessarily their name, but the invoice, or the purchase order or whatever that you're using in order to track the way that you bought it. So, it's a couple of extra columns on your inventory, which is stating, who you bought it from and who you sold it to, which you've already got the invoices. So, in regards to what Ben was saying about the VAT margin, and it sounds like a lot of paperwork, it's not. It really isn't. So.
Okay. All right. So, this one's actually from Ben. So, yeah, he went VAT registered in December, and it's a bit of a minefield with all the schemes. I went for flat rate in the end, which was a 20%, but only paid 9.5%, but can't reclaim any VAT purchases until over 2K. And the business, i.e. not stock, it depends. It's not showing the full info. I think he's because he's written too much on there. It's not showing on the screen. Minefield by, so it doesn't. Yeah, it's cutting out on my screen, but
yeah. Well, I'll be honest, and with that, Ben. I don't know a lot about the flat rate scheme. Everything we're doing is standard VAT. And if that scheme works for you, then I think that it's definitely worthwhile. I see another question, or essentially another bit that Ben's put here about the VAT threshold should be reviewed. To be honest, it should be based on profit rather than a turnover. Very easy to hit 85k turnover, not so easy to hit 85k profit. And different businesses have different margins. They don't care. We know that. They want you to hit that 85k. And they don't care about your margin. They just want that VAT, that's obviously what's making them tick, and it's supposed to be to pay our roads, but our roads have all got potholes. It's just one of those things, but like I say, with the VAT margin scheme, Ben, you can even utilize this. It's a great scheme, and it really is beneficial. The idea of being able to purchase an item with reduced amount of VAT, and then be able to sell the item and with reduced amount of VAT. Just, you're VAT registered, it doesn't matter. It's just, it's really good. But, if you're selling to people a lot, and these particular people are, an individual within a business, and they're VAT registered, and, they're buying for their business, be a procurement team, and they're VAT registered, this VAT margin scheme doesn't benefit, in any way. And that's on the sales side. So, and then on somebody that's not VAT registered, bearing in mind, they're not going to charge plus VAT anyway, so it doesn't benefit them, only when they're purchasing, which means that if they're purchasing from someone under, VAT margin rules, they're paying less VAT. So where it really falls into its own is, you've got, for example, you're purchasing from somebody that's not VAT registered, and then you're selling to somebody that's not VAT registered, which, if you've got, walk-ins in the store, which, obviously we're not seeing a lot of that right now, obviously, because of, April 12th supposed to be the date. We'll see what happens. Europe's just banned all exports of vaccine to us. So looks like there's going to be delays, but hey ho, that's another conversation. But nonetheless, we've got, the thing to consider is that, if you are VAT registered, and you are finding that it's a bit of a struggle because prices on, laptops or PCs have gone up, and you're struggling then to put the money on top and charge plus 20% because the customer can't claim that back, and suddenly the margin's the same but the figure's really high, and you're going, oh my god, what am I doing? How do I do this? How can I compete? Your customers are saying, this price is too high. Bang. The VAT margin scheme, if you can purchase under it, which I don't see any reason why not, and the VAT is just slashed. Massively slashed. It's so good. It really is. It really will help you significantly. And again, remember, the push here is not just on what we're doing and what we're selling under, but also on what you guys can be doing and girls, through your own stores and through your own online platforms, and it's not a lot of work. It really isn't. And anyone that sort of shies away from it, I can understand, anything to do with accounts and VAT and tax, you just, your tail goes between your legs and you want to run, I get that, but once you get your head around it, and again, everything that I'm saying, if you listen to what I'm saying, I'm just saying the same thing over and over and over again, but it's getting a bit like a parrot, really. But yeah, it's not that you guys don't understand it. I'm sure you guys do, and I'm quite happy to answer any questions that you've got. But this scheme is not difficult. As long as you understand what HMRC want, which is just a tracked item from start to finish. From the point that you've sold it, it doesn't matter anymore. From the point that you've purchased it, that's the point when it matters to you. And again, whoever you're purchasing from, it doesn't matter to them. But that reduced amount of VAT, 16.67%, only on the profit. Come on, unless you're charging them like 400 or 500 quid profit. But even then, if you're charging £400 or £500 profit, and you must be selling that item for what, 2-3 grand. Again, the VAT is going to be insane. It's going to be so high. So it's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, rather charge the VAT on £500 worth of stuff instead of 2.5 grand's worth of stuff. That's for sure.
This is it.
Right. Okay. A good question coming in from Timothy at the moment, and is can it be used for laptops that are good for like donor parts? So i.e. splits it up and sells the working components like the screen, hard drive, and so on.
So can it be used for laptops that are good for a donor or parts, i.e. split the item to its still working components, i.e. screen, hard drive, and so on? As far as I understand, you cannot use it if you've broken it down into parts. As far as I understand, you can't use it then. Because effectively, I'm pretty sure you have to sell it as a whole item. The other thing to take into consideration as well, like if you're adding parts into it, those parts cannot be part of the where you're charging the VAT margin rate. So, for example, if we bought something and we added in an SSD, you've got to take that out of the calculation when you do the VAT margin. So can it be used for laptops that are good for donor or parts? You can use it for, purchasing under, say, for example, you're VAT registered, you could purchase under the VAT margin scheme. But then when you went to sell, the parts of the item, as far as I'm aware, you can't use the VAT margin scheme. But yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and it's not something that we've done so far. We don't split items. We always sell them, whole, and if we do them as a whole item, but it's not something that we've deemed is economical for repair, whether that be for the fact that we can't make enough money on it because we're trying to buy low and then sell at trade price. We're not looking to sell to B2B, because then we would essentially be cutting our customers out. Some of these items that do that, those ones, we would strip them for parts for us, but we wouldn't be using the VAT margin on those particular parts.
Okay, that's pretty good. Next question's come in from a direct message, and to be honest with you, I think this person, the amount of time it took them to ask the question in a direct message to me, they could have Googled this. They want to know what the VAT threshold is. It's currently 85 grand, just to let you know. But as a business owner, it's something you really should be knowing, because obviously if you go over that threshold, you need to pay your VAT. Okay, so again, you could have easily Googled that one. Let's have a look. Next question is from Julian. He says, what's the deal with claiming VAT back then? I'm guessing this is in relation to something we said earlier, actually, because it came in probably about 15 minutes ago. So I'm not sure exactly what he's meaning by that. So if you want to clarify, Julian, unless you know, Sam?
I would assume, so essentially with standard VAT, I mean, I could be wrong here, Julian. If so, then I apologise, but you can always correct me. But essentially with standard VAT, you're paying plus 20% and then you're claiming back, because you're charging plus 20%. So that's how that's happening. Yeah. You're being charged plus, and then you're charging your customer plus 20%. So that's where that happens. So, if, for example, within that quarter, or if you do it monthly, you're finding that you are, you've purchased more items under the VAT than you have sold, then you're going to claim the VAT back, yeah, because you'll be VAT owing. But generally speaking, if you've sold what you should do, more than what you've purchased, which I hope that you are, because otherwise you're probably going to go out of business, then with that, you're never really claiming anything back. You're generally still paying an amount of VAT, which is your VAT return. It's slightly different with the VAT margin, because essentially the supplier, or let's work it out, like, say, for example, from a supplier point, right? So if you were to buy it from ALM, for example, you would be buying it with no VAT. Yeah, it would be like it's a VAT included price. You've just you understand and that the VAT that's within that is a lower rate, because we're not charging you plus 20%. And even if, for example, you had a laptop and it was a £160 plus VAT, and say, for example, you were then going to sell it with a £50, so you've got 160 plus VAT, you've got the £50. You've got to remember that if the customer that you're selling to is VAT registered, it's 160 plus VAT, and then you claim it back. Yeah, and then they get the 250, 200, say, for example, plus VAT, which is your £40 profit, and they're claiming that back. So it's fine. It doesn't come into its own there. It's where the customer is not VAT registered. So essentially, you're not claiming anything back. You're only ever paying a small amount of VAT to HMRC. So, at the end of each quarter, you would submit the Excel database of the items that you'd sold within that quarter. And you don't need to show them any VAT invoices or anything. You might, what we do is we have like on Xero, it will show like a reference. So you'll have like an invoice reference. And we always put UK VAT or export or, VAT margin. And then we can easily locate those invoices. We can search by VAT margin on Xero, order the invoice, put the select period. We pull up all those invoices. We select them all and do a download. And there you go. You've got the invoices that you need. And that's what relates to the packing list Excel sheet database, where you again have within that period, I've sold these laptops. And, if you were, cleverer than me, and I've just thought about this actually, you'd also put on your packing list the date, that relates to that invoice. And then you could search by, the date and select the period again on Excel, find those invoices on your Excel database, find the invoices on your accountancy software, You submit that to the accountant, and they go, well, brilliant. Here you go. Here's the invoices that show that. These are the invoices on your packing list. The VAT payable, which is the 16.67% on whatever profit you charge, 50 quid, 20 quid, whatever it is. This is, what you've got to pay. You just submit that like you would a VAT return. It would be the same thing. All you're doing is just paying less VAT to HMRC. That's it.
Okay, I think that one answers that. And just to say hi to Tobias, who's just come in. And let's have a look. Next one on there. Julian's just basically saying he's B2B, so he's obviously it's pretty much new equipment sold, so latitudes for 600 quid, servers and so forth, which are about $5,000 there. So obviously it's not really going to make much difference on new equipment, but obviously this is basically on second hand. I think it was Ben also said that the VAT threshold was 85 as well. So just to clarify, the reason why I mentioned that specific person is because I know they have a retail store and they have been trading for at least 5 years. So they need to really check up on the VAT if they don't know what the threshold is. Right, just confuses me sometimes when you get some questions like that one. Let's have a look. Next one, Richard Overfield. These schemes definitely draw attention to your business. I have nothing to hide, but a VAT inspection can take 1 or 2 days for the volume Sam is doing. It's worth it, but not for me. Okay, well, it's always your choice, isn't it, Richard? But again, you've got the option there, and if you're buying from someone like Sam, you can still pay full VAT if you want to. I mean, it's either way, isn't it?
I mean, honestly, even if you weren't doing this, Richard, there is still the opportunity that they might come and knock on your door. If they decide that they want to come and see you, then they're going to come see you. It's as simple as that. Okay, with the algorithms that they have, yes, it does draw attention. But again, if you've got nothing to hide, 1 or 2 days is not going to be the end of someone's business. I mean, it's not, a bomb hitting us, I would welcome them coming, welcome them looking through the records, making sure that everything's good. And then rest assured, like the likelihood of you seeing them probably again in your existence is highly unlikely, and that's a great thing to know that that's not going to happen again. I mean, it's not even that bad. I mean, when we had the lady come in, I forget her name now, but she was a really very, very nice lady. She wasn't there to try and catch me out or anything. She asked the questions. She wanted to see that we tracked. And that wasn't just on the VAT margin. That was on the exports that we were doing as well. So she wanted to know that we had the right, export documents, airway bills and shipping certificates, for example. Because we weren't charging those customers VAT and we needed to prove why, because, we would sell them to someone in Bulgaria or, Belgium or Germany, and the VAT should be charged in their country. Now we even sold VAT margin to people in Europe, so it's unfortunately we can't now because, we've come out of the EU, so we're not allowed to anymore. But where things get even more tricky, I can now look to purchase stock and a VAT margin from Europe. And then I can sell to people in Europe, i.e. like Call Me, for example. I could sell to him and under the VAT margin rules. So, I mean, it's up to any of you. Like, it's just food for thought, if you right now have got a demand for, items, and you're not seeing the stock come through the door and it's something that we've got it under VAT margin, you could find that it's beneficial if you're selling to end users because the price is reduced, but you're still making the same margin. But even if it's not that you're purchasing from us, it could be that you're purchasing from individuals for your own stores. And this is really the most beneficial thing is that, like I say, it's not a lot of paperwork. It really isn't. Once you've got it in place, it can sit alongside your invoicing system. And anyone that doesn't have an inventory of what they've got, like like Timothy was saying, like a detailed inventory, like if you haven't got that, like why? I mean, like if you got robbed, how would you go to your insurance company and go, oh yeah, I'm guessing that this was taken, but I have no stock take of before the items were taken and no stock take afterwards, or maybe you have because you've been forced to do it, but you can't prove that it was taken other than I think it did. So if you've got an inventory, adding in a couple of columns of where you bought it from and who you sold it to, which alongside you can have the invoices of, which you'd raise anyway under standard VAT. It's not a lot of work at all. But again, it just gives you options. That's all. And whether you want to utilize that option or not, that's up to you. You don't have to, So, it really is your choice. That's all.
Yeah, it's obviously it's always your choice, but yeah, you need records. It's always good, and as you said, the last thing you want to do is be having an argument with your not your VAT, your insurance company about.
Sorry, I just saw Richard's. Sorry, I just saw Richard's message.
Yeah, I just saw that,
and that's really, really good. I did like that.
Yeah. Surprised he didn't do another inspection a week later after that one, but. If you guys are not sure what he said, if you guys are not sure what he said and you're listening in, he basically says after his last VAT inspection, the VAT inspector wanted to buy a keyboard and mouse. I asked him if he wanted a VAT receipt or wanted to pay cash, and he did not give funny side. Oh dear. Let's have a look. A good one from Ben. He's saying basically, if you're getting close to your threshold, take a bit of a holiday. Only difficulty with that one is obviously if you're getting the threshold after about 6 months, that's going to be one hell of a holiday you're going to be having.
Yeah. So one to watch if you're getting close to the threshold, best to hold on till the start of the month, even if it means taking a couple of days off. The VAT payments are from the start of the month you register. It's decent bit of advice. It all depends on your sales and your purchases. If you're doing a lot of sales and you're doing a lot of purchasing, then being VAT registered and claiming back that VAT makes complete sense, because all the parts that you're purchasing you're paying plus 20%, because the likelihood is the person you're buying from is VAT registered. So that's obviously worthwhile. If you're putting those parts into an item, again, you're buying under the VAT margin scheme, VAT registered or not, it doesn't matter, because, if you've bought that item from an individual, you've got it under VAT margin, you've bought that part and you've been able to claim the VAT back because you were, VAT registered, then that part gets put into that item. There was no VAT on it because you claimed it back, so the 20% is lost on the part. And then the VAT margin on that particular item, you've purchased from that individual and you've not charged them any VAT, which is fantastic. And then when you've gone to sell it, again, I keep saying it, but you're charging a reduced amount of VAT only on the profit. So, not to be rude in any way, shape or form, there's 8 of us here. And it's not, small company mentality, please don't think me rude in any way, shape or form. When you're first starting off, I think it's worthwhile to take that into consideration, what Ben's saying. I think it makes complete sense. I really do. I agree. But, everybody on the group, and anyone anywhere, whether you're starting off in your bedroom or whether you're, selling through a store or you've got an online website, maybe you've got both, if we're not truly moving forwards and we're not looking to, expand and grow and reach for the opportunities that are, not necessarily just the low-hanging fruit, but the ones at the top of the tree, then really what are we doing? Are you just stagnant? You're just sitting there? So, we need to understand that, the rules are set in place and there's no getting around it. The VAT is there and that's it. But something like the VAT margin scheme, it sounds like it's like bending the rules, but they've put it there for a reason, so why not utilize it? It makes complete sense to me. And we really have. And, if we go the way that we want, which is, eventually having, we're doing recycling already, but if we start to get to a point where we start to do it on individual items, where we've got individuals that are, being able to sell through an online platform, then we're going to have more and more items like this which are under VAT margin, which you guys can be utilizing. So that whether you're getting it from me or whether you're doing it for your own store, we'll keep coming back to the point that options is always worthwhile. One option, all your eggs in one basket. Nobody wants that. Having choice, I think, is incredibly beneficial. So look, on what Ben said, I agree. But when you eventually get to the point where you're going to have to tackle, the VAT threshold and whatever else, I mean, you should be applauding yourself. If you hit the VAT threshold and you've gone over, that's not oh my God, everything's, the world's going to end. It's a well done to you. You've hit that threshold, fingers crossed you've made a decent amount of profit on it. If you haven't, then maybe you should be looking at your business model. But if you have, which you should have done, then, whether you're, covering overheads and making a little bit, or whether you're covering overheads and you're making a lot, it definitely is a good thing. So, well done to you that you've done that. Taking into account any of these schemes is just worthwhile. So, I think all of you should be pushing forwards as much as humanly possible.
Always look forward and not back. And yes, Ben's sent a panicking email to me, or message, should I say. Yes, Ben, and I was joking when I said 6 months holiday. I wasn't serious. So we understand that you mean a few days, for example, the end of November to the 1st of December or something like that. So, right, let's go on to the last few questions. So we've got one from Kunal. If you are selling new and refurbs, would you maintain separate account for VAT Margin Scheme?
So no, I mean, we don't sell anything brand new, right? But essentially, whether it's new or it's a refurb, doesn't really matter. You can buy something under the VAT Margin Scheme and you can refurbish it. So that's not a problem. For example, if you were buying something brand new, you paid plus 20%, and then you've sold, plus 20%. You can't use the VAT Margin Scheme. So effectively, what you're asking when you're saying new and refurbs is more, standard VAT and VAT margin. Can you run them alongside each other? Yes. So on our invoicing software, Xero, QuickBooks, whatever you want to use. I mean, we use Xero. I've used QuickBooks previously, but Xero, I like it. I think it's great. It's very simple and straightforward. I mean, massive shout out to Xero. They're great. But in regards to Xero, effectively, remember that when you're raising an invoice for a customer, under standard VAT, you've got the standard VAT that you're charging the plus 20% to the customer. The customer's charging you 20%, and then, you're charging plus 20% to your customer, and that's where you've got the, your VAT return, yeah? The same things with the VAT margin, but, like I say, the only difference is the rate, the percentage, which is less, and, the fact that you're only charging on the profit. I'm sure that we all understand that by now. But in regards to maintaining a separate account, it's not required. I mean, on your accountancy software is not seeing your inventory list. Your inventory list is what's important to your accountant and to HMRC. They want to see on your Excel sheet or whatever you use, but let's just say an Excel sheet. What they want to see is what you've purchased, who you've purchased it from, and then who you've purchased it to, all the while showing the VAT that you're going to be paying, which is exactly the same thing, with standard VAT. I mean, what are you doing? You're showing where you bought it from, the invoice for which you purchased. You are showing who you sold it to, an invoice of what you sold, and then you are showing the bit in between, which is what you bought it for, what you sold it for, and the VAT that should be charged. So it's exactly the same thing. Like nothing's changed. It's just, better rate and only on the profit. And, happy to send across the Excel sheet that we use, which is what, we showed to HMRC when they came to see us. And like I say, a day, and they were in and out. I mean, it wasn't even a day, and they, targeted us for not just that margin, it was export and everything else. So yeah, I mean, I just don't. Anyone who says that this is difficult or anything, it's not that you're not clever enough or anything like that. It's just that if you're set in your ways, right? Okay, it's just if you're not open to something new, then that's fine. That's up to you. But all I'm looking to do here is just show the benefits of this scheme, and if it helps you guys to want to use our services, then that's fantastic. I'd love to work with you guys I mean, the guys and girls that I do, I think you're all brilliant. And I thank you for all your support. We're not this massive company. We started off with just 2 people, and where we are now is because of you guys, because of Phil, because of the group. But you need to utilize this for your own stores and what you're doing, because this is going to massively benefit you, in my opinion, if you utilize it right. So that's entirely up to you.
That's it. I'm going to say the choice is yours, and it depends on what you want to do. Right, we've got a couple of messages from Cormac. He's basically saying outstanding podcast or stream, and he sent an email off to his accountant to see if he can have a look into this for him. So obviously with him being in Ireland. And he also says, also always from Sam, a great guy to deal with. So looks like you've got a customer for life there, as long as they let you deal with Ireland. There we go. So we got another question in. Okay, does it work for services like hosting, domain subscriptions, and so forth? No, it's only for, I think, again,
You're didn't you?
Yeah, it's basically secondhand goods, works of art, antique or collector's items. Doesn't include stuff like precious stones, investment gold, precious materials, and any items you bought for which you were charged full VAT, apparently. So there you go. So right, so let's have a look. And Kunal saying template would be ideal. I don't know if it's something you can help with there, Sam, or not. Do you want to post that in the group later, or just some information about it, or?
Yes. What we can do. Kuno, feel free to get in touch, and then I can send that over to you, because I'll just have to talk you through it. What we're doing. There's certain columns in there that you can change, but effectively there's about 6 columns of information there, of which 3 of them you would already be using for the standard VAT anyway. But there's just a few extra columns, and that's it really. And then once I show you how we're using it, feel free to use it as much as you want.
I've put ALM's, which is Sam's company's website, on the screen at the moment. So that's ALMWHOLESALELIMITED.com. So I'm guessing they'll be able to contact you through there if they've got any questions, or anyone wants any help, or obviously they want to purchase from you and so forth.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, you'll initially come through to sales, which will be Liam or one of the other guys in there. Liam's the guy that's running that. But in regards to, if you've got any questions which are regarding VAT margin, and in regards to the discussion that we've had here, I'll be the best one to do, and happy to take some time out to talk to you guys. All right.
That's pretty good. And Peter says, yeah, basically what we've said is that you can't do the VAT margin on services. And Kunal says, thank you for that. So I think that's all the questions for today. Sorry if I've missed any. If you do have any more questions, put them in the chat below, and I'll make sure I'll link Sam in so he can answer them tomorrow or whenever he gets a chance, and so forth. Is there anything you would like to add on to the end of the show, Sam, before I run through the credits, basically?
Yeah, well, essentially, just want to say thank you to everyone that has supported us so far. I've already said that, but yeah, the group has been amazing. We did some advertising, with Tech for Techs when it, was right. I don't know if it's right near the start, but we did a bit there, and Phil, Jenny were brilliant to us, and we managed to reach out to a lot of people, which was fantastic. And as long as we can help you guys, that'd be great. Whether that's helping you guys by selling you something, or whether it's just some advice, always happy to help. But I look forward to the next show that hopefully we're going to be able to do with you guys again, which will be on a different topic. But it's been a pleasure, and thank you very much. And I'm hoping that we can be introduced to more people in the group.
And that's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, you sponsored it, if I remember right, probably within the first few months we started Tech for Techs. We've changed our business format these days. We don't generally ask for sponsorships or anything like that, so we don't have any income through that sort of form. But yeah, and I'm glad that we could help you out as well. I know a few of the sponsors have done pretty well out of it when we used to do that scheme when we first started. Right then, so I would like to thank Sam for joining today. If you are an independent trader, store owner, MSP, tech vendor, or distributor, you can find out more information about Tech for Techs at tech4techs.co.uk/join. Join over 1,100 members just like you that can give you free business or tech advice, and did I say it's totally free to join with no membership fees to you. Make sure you tune in next Thursday at 8 p.m. for Nightmare Customers. I'm pretty sure most of you out there have had Nightmare Customers or have got them, so I'm guessing there'll be plenty of comments on that show. We've also got a show due in 2 weeks' time. Cormac, who's usually on, that's the Irish guy, if you don't know, he's going to be interviewing me and Jenny about Tech for Techs, where it's going, where it came from, and possibly whatever else. And obviously, questions are going to be coming in from you guys. We've also got a show after that called What Should I Stock? And then after that, we've also got one about refurbishing faulty tech. So again, we're on live every Thursday night at 8 p.m. When you do apply to become a member of Tech for Techs, if you do, please make sure you fill in the correct address and information on the application page. If you do not fill in your, for example, web address or your name or what company you're from, we just won't let you in. Simple as that. So don't start messaging me saying, why haven't I let you in? It's because you haven't answered the questions. It's as simple as that. So thank you for watching, and thanks for supporting local independent businesses. Good night, everyone.